Hey, and welcome to the mixing process. I want to start this video with announcing some really special, very important news. I got a new plant in my studio because I was tired of having to lean the old one up against a wall because the roots were rotten and it kept falling over and it was just not working. It was a mess. So I got a new one and it doesn't do that. So it's great. But onto audio, which is the whole reason you clicked on this video. If you've used an EQ or a compressor especially, you've probably noticed that they have a parameter called makeup gain or output gain or something like that. And if you're anything like me, when I first started mixing, you probably just leave it alone and don't touch it because you have no idea what it does. But today, I actually want to teach you what it does and when it can actually be really helpful in your mixing process. But before we go there, I just want to really quickly mention, if you're new to mixing and you're trying to learn the basics, the fundamentals of mixing, go download my free mixing guide on the mixingprocess.com website. It's going to be linked in the description below. And this guide will walk you through the fundamentals of mixing, like EQ, compression, balancing, volume with faders, effects, all of those different things. It'll give you a really systematic, simple, easy to follow process for it. I think it'll really help you a lot. But on to makeup gain. Okay. So you'll find this makeup gain on a plugin that reduces the signal in some way. So like I mentioned, EQ, compression, that plugins that do those kinds of things. Because the purpose of makeup gain is actually to compensate for signal loss. What am I talking about? Okay, well, when you have a compressor, you're compressing that signal. It's reducing the dynamic range of that signal. It's turning down the peaks, okay? So it's losing some signal strength in there. With an EQ, if you're doing big cuts, you're losing signal strength in there. So if you've got a lot of plugins going from plugin to plugin to plugin, by the time you get to the end of that chain, you've probably lost a lot of signal strength by the end of it if you don't do anything about it. Well, this is the purpose of makeup gain or output gain. Okay? So here's an example of that happened to me that kind of taught me the purpose of makeup gain. I was on the road. It was very early in my mixing career, and I was working on a vocal, and I had to do a lot of really big cuts out of this vocal because I was dealing with feedback issues and just trying to learn how to shape the tone of it. And I ended up cutting so much of that vocal with EQ that by the time I got to the fader, I had to turn the fader up so far that I really had no room. It was just maxed out all the time, and I couldn't figure out, why am I having problems with this? My gain is set correctly. Why is my fader not responding the way I want it to? And then somebody came by and said, well, what are you doing with this EQ? This is where all your signal is going. And it occurred to me, okay, I'm doing so much cutting with this EQ that it's reducing the signal so much that I don't have anything to work with after it leaves the EQ. So there were kind of two solutions to this problem. The first, which is what I ended up doing, which I should have done, is recheck the signal processing, go back and flatten the EQ and start over. Try it again, see if I can get it in a better position where I don't have to cut so much volume. That, in that situation, completely fixed it, and I didn't have to do anything else. But the second alternative to that would have been use makeup gain to turn that process signal back up to the appropriate level after I had done all that EQ processing on it. That's the purpose of makeup gain. So I'm going to open up a project here, and I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like with compression and with EQ. Again, you're going to find this parameter on a lot of different plugins. So just be aware of it. Anything that's reducing the signal in any way is probably going to have a makeup gain parameter that allows you to kind of level match it, make sure everything is a good strong signal when it comes in and when it goes out, because that's what we definitely want to work with. Okay, so this track is an acoustic guitar. You can hear it right here. Sounds kind of terrible by itself, but it sounds a little better in the mix. So let's just start with this compressor right here. You can see when I played it right there, it's where I have the threshold and ratio. It's taken some pretty big bites out of the signal here. At the peaks, it was doing minus 7.7. So it was doing a lot of gain reduction on there. So what happens is when we do all this gain reduction, then by the time the signal leaves the compressor and goes on to the next whatever's in line after that, we've reduced that signal. Now, if we do this a bunch of times, we're going to get to the fader and we're going to have no signal left. And we don't want that. We want to be able to make sure everything is level matched, everything is strong throughout the whole signal chain. So what we can do is go over to this gain or output. It's actually labeled both things on this one. And we can turn up the volume of this signal after the processing, okay? So with this one, we've reduced minus 7.7 and we've added 1.5 dB back. Now, this thing is turning up the whole compressed signal after all the processing. It's turning that part of the signal up. All right, so with EQ, it's a very similar scene here. You can see this kind of a dramatic high pass filter right here. And the reason this is here is because this is a live recording and there was actually a lot of bass guitar getting into this acoustic guitar's pickup. So I had to roll this really high up. It's up at 267 in order to get all that bass out of the track. So I'll just let you listen to this without it, and then I'll turn it back on so you can hear kind of what we're doing with this. Okay, so that changed a lot. It dumped a lot of that low end out of it, and it's kind of bright and tinny. That's just kind of what fit the mix a little bit better. But then you can see, because I've cut so much out of here, I then had to go add 3 dB of makeup gain, okay? So that's kind of what that does. Now, just a quick note, this is something that I see a lot of people do or think that's not quite correct. A lot of people think, okay, I've done minus 7 dB of gain reduction here. I need to add 7 dB of makeup gain to compensate for that. That's not how we do this, okay? We add makeup gain to make the signal stronger again, to make sure it's level matched. Level matching just means that whatever the input signal is, we make sure what's going out is the same signal strength, okay? So we want to make sure it's level matched, but also it's not a I take away this much over here, so I add this much over here. It's whatever sounds musical, whatever sounds natural, that's what we're really going for, okay? So again, you notice I'm taking minus 7 out here, then I'm only adding 1.5 here. I'm taking, I don't know, there isn't a meter on this one, so I don't know exactly how much I'm taking off of this one, but I'm only adding 3 dB back. So let me set this to 0 here. And I'll just show you kind of what the level matching process would look like. So I'm going to listen to it here with it off, and then I'm going to turn it back on and try to boost this until I feel like when I A/B it, it's actually kind of at the same volume. Okay, so that feels pretty close to me. So I only added back about 2.3, but you can kind of see the process I'm going through here. I'm turning it off, getting a picture of the volume level, then I turn it back on, and because of all the EQ, the signal level drops. And then I use that makeup gain to kind of turn it back up post-processing to make sure that the signal that's leaving the EQ is as strong as it was when it came in, even after I do all that cutting with the processing here. Okay, so hopefully that made sense to you. If you have any questions about this, you can type them in the comments section below, or you can go to my website, themixingprocess.com, contact me directly from there. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Thanks for watching. We will see you on the next one.